The film industry can be a very lonely place, especially when you reach the top. Babi was one of Hindi cinema's most bankable female stars in the late 1970s and the early 1980s. But her life took a shocking turn when she disappeared at the height of her career in 1983. But her disappearance from Hindi cinema wasn't a quiet one. Every time she would pop back up again, it was to launch new accusations against some of the world's most elite individuals like Al Gore, Bill Clinton, Prince Charles, and one-time co-star Amitabh Bachchan, who happens to be Indian film royalty. He is considered one of the greatest, most accomplished, and commercially successful actors in the history of Indian cinema. With a cinematic career spanning over 5 decades, he has played pivotal roles in over 200 films. Think of the biggest actors you know: Will Smith, Brad Pitt, Denzel Washington, and more. Bachchan is bigger, and she claimed he was her biggest enemy and tried on several occasions to end her life and buy off the media to make her look crazy. She was diagnosed with substance-induced schizophrenia and labeled mentally unstable, but guess what? She already said that the media would do that to her. I did a video for Madhubala, who died young as well, and it was confirmed that Bollywood wanted her dead and the press was against her. If there's any industry shadier than Hollywood, it's Bollywood. I, for one, believe Babi. Even if it was substance, I tend to believe what anyone says about the corrupt industry first and get proof later, because all too often, it takes 50 years after the person we labeled crazy to be finally proven right. You know how many stories I have done so far where at first no one believed the star, but with exposure and later proof, we see that they weren't crazy after all? Well, I went down the rabbit hole and I found out that Parveen Babi was actually not crazy at all. They really played in her face and had the public believe that she was insane. And I really don't believe it. I'm going to peel all the layers and we're going to uncover the mafia behind Bollywood. And I just believe everything she said. How did such a beautiful, promising young woman go out so sad? She died alone, a recluse, scarred, scared of every little thing, and paranoid even to eat, thinking they would try to poison her. And she had good reason. The media ripped her to shreds, and in the end, she had no allies. They profited of her trauma, her pain, and her alleged mental illness. All the love she's getting now is because she's already dead. While she was living, they called her a nutcase. In today's video, we are going to dissect where did it all go wrong, the childhood, career, and unfortunate end of the life of Parveen Babi. But first, hey friend, welcome to my channel, KlLL, where we deep dive and break down the most iconic stars through history. If you're not yet subscribed, please be sure to do so. And if you're already subscribed, please turn on your notification bell so you never miss an upload. Now, without further ado, let's get into this video. Let's start first with her childhood. Parveen Babi was born on April 4th, 1949 in Junagadh, Gujarat, as the only child of a noble family with roots tracing back to the Babi tribe of Pashtun, known as the Pathans of Gujarat. Her father, Vali Muhammad Khan Babi, worked for the Nawab of Junagadh. Her mother was Jamal Babi. Despite being born into wealth and luxury, Parveen's life wasn't all glitz and glamour. She was born 14 years into her parents' marriage, which created a notable age gap and a sense of isolation in her childhood. She was also their only child. The age gap and being the only child often made her feel suffocated and misunderstood. Growing up, Parveen was surrounded by silence and solitude. With no siblings to share her world, her father's death when she was just 6 added to her loneliness. Seeking an escape, she left her hometown to study in Ahmedabad, where she broke free from her reserved nature and explored the world beyond her sheltered upbringings. It's also important to note that during her childhood, it was said that she would see spirits. Actor Kabir Bedi has spoken about his very intense relationship with late actor Parveen Babi, and Bedi's autobiography, Stories I Must Tell, The Emotional Journey of an Actor, he speaks of his revelation. He told Bollywood Hungama her problems could have begun in childhood because she used to see spirits in the monuments around her house that were related to her family's history. The Babi Pashtun clan had served Emperor Humayun at one point. There was an incident where Parveen had one of her disturbing episodes. Her mother said to Mahesh Bhatt, her father used to be like that, so my question was, could it be genetics that created that situation? End quote. But keep in mind that he was also one of the people that she accused of tarnishing her name. Also, he mentioned her mother, who is not alive to confirm or deny these claims. He also wrote his book and did these interviews after Babi was no longer with us. So take it with a grain of salt. Now let's get into her career. Parveen's bold leap into modeling in 1972 marked the beginning of her transformation. Her debut film, Charitra, didn't make waves, but it put her on the industry's radar. She gained recognition with her role as Neela in the drama Majboor and quickly rose to fame. The 1970s and early 1980s saw her starring alongside Amitabh Bachchan in 8 films, each a big hit, cementing her status as Bollywood icon. Her journey from a lonely child to a celebrated star was filled with drama and determination, showcasing her ability to defy the odds and carve out a place for herself in the world of cinema. Parveen Babi's career skyrocketed during a time when most Bollywood heroines were wrapped in traditional Indian roles. She stood out with her Western-style fashion, which gave her a freedom many actresses of her time didn't have in the male-dominated, often sexist world of Indian cinema. Alongside Zeenat Aman, with their sharp looks, fit bodies, and English accents, they redefined the Bollywood heroine, bringing a fresh modern flair to the screen. Donning a bikini on screen, adopting the bohemian style of wearing modern dresses, including high-slit gowns and other Western outfits, to performing on hit numbers with seductive moves, this duo brought oodles of glamour in the Hindi film industry. Her boldness wasn't just limited to the silver screen. In real life, Babi never minced her words and fearlessly voiced her opinions on anything and everything. Parveen starred with Zeenat in films like Mahan and Ashanti, the latter inspired by the American show Charlie's Angels. Known for her glamorous and modern roles, Parveen became a top-tier actress, appearing in numerous hits of the era. She was also a successful model, gracing the covers of major film magazines like Filmfare and Stardust, and even made history as the first Bollywood actress on the cover of Time in July 1976, a moment that became iconic. Time magazine is one of the biggest, the biggest magazine for the elites. It's a global magazine. Anyone who makes the cover is solidified in their fame and position amongst their peers. Do you know how big of a deal it is to be the first Bollywood actress on the cover of Time magazine? And now she was advertised to the world. She was accepted into Western society and entered into a new bracket with access to people of power from all walks of life. But being a woman in the film industry in the 70s, and a minority at that, of course that will lead to trouble. Because women in the industry, no matter how rich and talented, are almost always used as objects for whoever finds them attractive in these elite circles. They are introduced as substances and passed around. That often leads to mental illness. I know y'all see my video about old Hollywood parties. I will pin it in the comments, but the Indian film industry is no different. And when you have crossed over and is now well known in the West too, there is always a price to pay. This is why I'm not dismissing her saying she had relations with some of these Western political figures who later wanted to end her life. She was known to say she had an ego and didn't want to be any man's trophy wife or tag-along woman. She wanted to be the one making boss moves and did not like to be controlled. So was she rebelling and trying to talk back a little too much? Did she think she was big enough to not face consequences? In this game, no one is big enough, no one is rich enough, and no one is too powerful that when they want to get you, they can't. But back to her film career, never one to shy away from controversy, Parveen embraced bold roles, portraying women in live-in relationships and openly drinking, those shocking taboos at the time. Parveen Babi wasn't just a pretty face. She broke barriers and redefined what it meant to be a leading lady in Bollywood, leaving a lasting legacy that continues to inspire. Babi is regarded as one of the greatest actors of Indian cinema, one of the highest paid actresses of 1970s to early 1980s. In 2022, she was placed in Outlook India's 75 Best Bollywood Actresses list. Babi was among the most stylish and beautiful actresses of Hindi cinema. Times of India placed her in its 50 Beautiful Faces list. Rediff.com placed Babi 7th in its Sexiest Bollywood Stars of All Times list, and Babi is considered among the hottest Bollywood actresses of all time. Filmfare noted, and I quote, "In the 1970s and 1980s, Parveen Babi had a devoted fan base and lit up the screen whenever she showed on it," end quote. In 1983, Parveen Babi vanished from Bollywood scene without a word, sparking wild rumors that she was under the mysterious control of underworld figures and the powers that be. After stepping away from the limelight, Parveen reinvented herself as an interior decorator, but that was just the beginning. She dove into a variety of passions, playing music, mastering the piano, painting, and even dabbling in architecture and literature. Her interests expanded to writing, cultural studies, and even human rights, proving she was much more than just a film star. Living in a chic paint house in Mumbai, Parveen thrived on her smart financial choices, enjoying a comfortable lifestyle. Her intellectual curiosity saw her contributing to newspapers and magazines until 1992, showcasing her versatility and depth beyond the silver screen. Parveen Babi's life after Bollywood was as colorful as her career. Filled with intrigue and a relentless pursuit of new horizons, how could someone labeled a schizophrenic keep up with so many intellectual endeavors and make so many wise financial investments? She was contributing to newspapers and magazines, writing pieces for them up until her death. Why did they continue to work with her if she was so mentally disturbed and unreliable? Babi was said to have lived alone and converted to Christianity during the late 1990s until her death. Like many women, Parveen Babi dreamed of a perfect love story, hoping for a happy marriage and family, but destiny had something else in store. Parveen's tendency to dive headfirst into relationships often left her feeling overwhelmed and exposed her to heartbreak. Her romantic entanglements with well-known figures like Danny Denzongpa, Kabir Bedi, Mahesh Bhatt, and as rumors suggest, Amitabh Bachchan were marked by intensity. Her partners often saw her behavior as overly jealous and possessive. Sadly, these relationships didn't last, dragging Parveen into a deep well of despair and severely affecting her mental health. The emotional roller coaster she experienced in her quest for love turned her personal life into a whirlwind of drama and turmoil. Despite the challenges, Parveen's life story showcased her tenacity in a complex pursuit of love and happiness in the glittering yet unforgiving world of Bollywood. On July 30th, 1983, Parveen Babi left India and traveled to various countries for a spiritual journey with U.G. Krishnamurti and her friend Valentine, and spent some of the time in California and Houston. To understand the state of her mind during this time, we must first understand who U.G. Krishnamurti was. U.G. Krishnamurti was a philosopher and orator who questioned the state of spiritual liberation, better known as moksha. Moksha is a term in Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism for various forms of emancipation, liberation, nirvana, or release. Moksha is freedom from ignorance, self-realization, self-actualization, and self-knowledge. Basically, it's a way of thought that makes you your own God. Only you could save and change yourself. You have all the power. It's the serpent in Eden philosophy. You can be like God. In Hindu traditions, moksha is a central concept and the outmost aim of human life. The other three aims are dharma, artha, and kama. Together, these four concepts are called purusartha in Hinduism. As you recall, this was the lineage of Babi's family. Liberation comes to those who know a supreme being is present as a universal spirit and principle, just as they know butter is present in milk. Such realization comes from self-knowledge and self-discipline, and this knowledge and realization is liberation from transmigration, which means, and I quote, the passing of a soul into another body after death. Having pursued a religious path in his youth and eventually rejecting it, U.G. claimed to have experienced a devastating biological transformation on his 49th birthday, an event he refers to as the calamity. He emphasized that this transformation back to the natural state is a rare random biological occurrence with no religious context, meaning he was living in the spiritual world, but on his 49th birthday, he now is living in the natural world in a natural state, i.e. the human body. Because of this, he discouraged people from pursuing the natural state as a spiritual goal. The goal is to live in the spiritual state. He rejected the basis of thought, and in doing so, negated all systems of thought and knowledge. Tell them that there is nothing to understand, end quote. That was his motto. Basically, there is no need to seek or understand because what happens in life is random. UG emphasized the impossibility and the necessity of any human change, radical or mundane. He insisted that the body and its actions are already perfect, and he considered attempts to change or mold the body as violations of the peace and the harmony that is already there. The self as he perceived is an illusion rejected by thought and sustained by the demand to bring about change in the world, in itself or in both. Likewise, UG rejected the notion of a knower, claiming that there is no one thinking, there is just thinking. He went one step further in his statement, and I quote, "What is there is about thought, but not thought itself," end quote. Furthermore, human self-consciousness is not a thing, but a movement, one characterized by perpetual malcontent, someone who is dissatisfied with the current state of affairs, or who is always complaining, and of fascist insistence on its own importance and survival. While UG denied the existence of an individual mind, he accepted the concept of a world mind, which, according to him, contained the accumulation of the totality of man's knowledge and experience. In other words, you don't have your own individual mind. Instead, there is just one universal mind. Your thoughts are not unique. Yuji also maintained that the reason people came to him and to gurus was to find solutions for their everyday real problems and for solutions to a fabricated problem, namely the search for spirituality and enlightenment. He insisted that this search is caused by the cultural environment that demands conformity of individuals while it also places within them the desire to be special, which is impossible. You can't both be special yet conform. These people that seek out gurus or cults are looking for enlightenment to feel special and unique. It's like a rebellion against conformity. The achievement of enlightenment is then viewed as a crowning expression of an individual's specialness and uniqueness. The desire for enlightenment is exploited by gurus, spiritual teachers, and other sellers of shoddy goods who pretend to offer various ways to reach that goal. And according to Yuji, all these facilitators never deliver and cannot ever deliver since the goal itself, i.e. enlightenment, is unreachable. He believes there is no true enlightenment or spiritual liberation. It is all a lie. Kind of hopeless, right? At the point Parveen Babi was at, she started to feel like everything around her was a lie and she wanted to break from her family's religious traditions. She did eventually convert to Christianity and found that through Christ alone, you find liberation and true enlightenment. Because he granted us free will, we can consciously think our own thoughts and we are indeed unique in Christ. The concept that you are your own God is a lie. This was a long road for Babi and she faced a lot of backlash for it, but in the end, she did not waver till her death. Amen. Amen. But before she discovered Christ, during her time in California and Houston, the media launched vicious attacks against her. On 7th of April, 1984, Babi was suspected at John F. Kennedy International Airport after she failed to submit her identification papers. And the authorities handcuffed her and kept her in a general ward with 30 other mentally disturbed patients. The Indian Consul General, who had been informed of the incident, had came to visit her at the hospital. Parveen smiled and chatted with the consul as though nothing had happened. She knew that the only way they would let her out of that mental prison is if she played nice and remained calm with them. And it worked. Babi behaved as if nothing had happened. She was full of praise for the Americans, whom she found to be a very progressive and ingenious race. Her diagnosis of paranoid schizophrenia also started doing the rounds, but the actress denied it with strong passion. But it was her against the tabloids. She blamed the industry for conspiring to malign her image for their own ulterior motives in the blogs that she wrote for magazines. This also resulted in Babi isolating herself and severing ties with friends, colleagues, and even family members. These rumors gained traction when Babi began making astonishing claims. The target of her troubles was none other than superstar Amitabh Bachchan. In an interview to a film magazine dated 1989, she said, and I quote, "Amitabh Bachchan is a super international gangster. He is after my life. His goons kidnapped me and I was kept on an island where they performed a surgery on me and planted one transmitter chip electronic bug right under my ear," end quote. There was a photograph of Babi showing a scar below her ears, but now they have scrubbed the internet and history of this photo, but there was indeed a photograph. So let's move on to the next conspiracy. And I'm gonna leave that at that, but that wouldn't be the first celebrity that made that claims. Why do they make these similar claims? That wouldn't be the first celebrity. I'll do some breakdowns. I'll show y'all that where they say, hey, I was kidnapped. You know, when those celebrities disappear for quote unquote plastic surgery or whatever, they'll say I was kidnapped. I was taken somewhere and they implanted something, whether behind my ear or they'll plant something behind their neck or in their skull and all of that. And they'll say it. And a lot of them will have the scars to prove it, but people call them crazy or they got the scars from an episode, a mental episode, whatever. I don't believe that was the case for her. But the 1993 Bombay bombings was a series of 12 terrorist bombings that took place in Bombay on March 12, 1993. The single-day attacks resulted in 257 fatalities and 1,400 injuries. The attacks were coordinated by Dawood Ibrahim, who was an Indian mob boss, and, he also dealt with substances, but on a huge scale. I'm talking about global scale. He was selling substances. He was a kingpin, basically. And he is wanted even till today. He is still missing, but he is wanted by the Indian government. He reportedly heads the Indian organized crime syndicate, D Company, which he founded in Mumbai in 1970s. So D Company was his company, okay? Ibrahim is previously assumed to be living in Pakistan and then in the United Arab Emirates. In 2002, Parveen Babi hit the headlines when she filed an affidavit in a special court hearing of the 1993 serial bomb blast case, claiming that she had gathered clinching evidence against actor Sanjay Dutt showing his involvement in the case. But she did not turn up in court after being summoned, saying that she was afraid of being taken out of here, if you catch my drift, permanently. So she blamed that Sanjay Dutt had something to do with those 12 bombings. Years later, Dutt was absolved on all charges of involvement in the T attacks, like the bombings, but he was only convicted for unlawful possessions of firearms. So he was found with firearms and stuff, and he was convicted for that. Well, I digged a little deeper, and let's just say I believe her, in my personal opinion. Here is what I found, and I want you guys to comment below your thoughts, but this is crazy. So Ibrahim and his syndicate, D Company, have been linked to the financing of the Bollywood film industry. A number of Bollywood studios and films were financed by D Company in the 1980s and 1990s. Ibrahim was linked to a number of celebrities during that time. D Company is also known for extortion and threats targeted towards Bollywood producers and celebrities, and was involved in the murders of Bollywood producers Javed Siddique and Gulshan Kumar. So you know how Hollywood uses the mafia to intimidate celebrities and keep politicians, etc. in line? Well, Bollywood is no different. There is nothing new under the sun. I believe her, and it all checks out. It all checks out. They really tried to make this lady sound crazy. I don't know how else to say that. It's just funny how she accused this person having something to do with it, and they do. It's like how you see these rappers get charged with conspiracy charges, substance charges, transportation of people, like trafficking charges. Turns out how these rappers and celebrities like the Diddy-esque and all of them, and even look at what Weinstein was doing and all of those people. Look at that, right? And it turns out it was all true. It was all true. Why are they involved in crime? We don't know. In the last 4 years of her life, Babi recorded every phone call, always informing the caller about surveillance. Her behavior became more intriguing in the late 1990s when she asked visiting journalists to taste her food and drink for fear that someone was trying to poison her. She blamed the mafia for cutting off the power supply to her apartment. So they turned off the power supply in her apartment, although all her bills were paid, because like I said, she made some pretty smart financial investments. She was good with her money to the end. So I don't think listen, I've dealt with people with mental illness, even in my family and stuff. I've been around people that have schizophrenia. They're not organized with their finances like that to live alone and keep up with their payments. So even though her parents were played, there was a time she was just had no power. Explain that, right? Still later, when the press failed to validate her shocking truth, she said it had been bought out by Bachchan. If this wasn't bad enough, Babi went on to claim that Bachchan, Bill Clinton, Robert Redford, Prince Charles, Al Gore, the Bharatiya Janata Party, which is an Indian political party, the Roman Catholic Church, the CIA, CBI, KGB, and Mossad, and the governments of the United States, the United Kingdom, and France were conspiring to take her out of here. The matter was quickly dismissed by the courts. I'm not going to comment on that. I did dig a little deeper with that, but I think I'm just not going to comment on that. That's what I'm going to say. But I'll leave you guys to have your own thoughts. But you guys probably like, why all these people for one girl? There's a lot of people that are in those industries, that made those connections, that's been in those rooms, that have so much that could destroy a lot of these entities, a lot of these even political entities and governments and, corporations and stuff. They could destroy them with all the information that they have. And if you're not in line, you're not following orders, you're not obeying, you're resistant, and there's a lot they can just try to do to you. And if that's not working, then the last resort is to just take your life and make it look like an overdose, or you're crazy, and validate you in the media, make you start to behave erratically. Anyone that starts to expose too much truth, you start to see they try to discredit you in the media, bring up rumors about you, lies, tarnish your character, your morals, make you somebody that has no credentials, like somebody that should not be believed. And that's just a tactic they've been doing since the beginning of time. It's so unfortunate. And unfortunately, on the fateful morning of January 22nd, 2005, her neighbors informed the police after Bobby hadn't collected her milk or newspapers from her doorsteps for almost 2 to 3 days. Hey, something's wrong, kind of like a wellness check. The police suspected that she may have been dead for up to 72 hours before her body was found. The cause of her death was not immediately known, but a post-mortem was conducted at Cooper Hospital, and reports showed that there was no traces of food in her stomach for several days, but some alcohol, possibly from her medication, was found. And yeah, some medication have alcohol in them, and it is possible that she had not consumed anything for more than 3 days and as a consequence starved to death. The police ruled out foul play and determined she succumbed to total organ failure and diabetes. Parveen Babi converted to Christianity during the last years of her life, as she stated in an interview, and was baptized in a Protestant Anglican church at Malabor Hill. She expressed a desire to be buried as per Christian rites. She wanted a Christian funeral, but her relatives who are Muslim claimed her body after her death and buried her according to Islamic rites. Just disrespecting the dead, basically. Parveen Babi was buried at Juhu Muslim Cemetery in Santa Cruz, Mumbai. But 5 years later, guess what? Due to a shortage of land space for burials, Parveen Babi's grave, along with other luminary Bollywood celebrities such as Muhammad Rafi, Madhubala, which I did a video for her also. She just died in it. She was another rebellious one that the Bollywood tried to really, check that out. I have a Bollywood playlist. You can check out all of the videos that I've done for them. And also Talat Mahmood and Nushad Ali, who were buried at Santa Cruz Muslim Cemetery, their bodies were exhumed and their remains were relocated to a new resting place, which we don't know. After her death, the State Administrator General Maharashtra became sole custodian of her properties and assets. Following her death, chaos erupted when various distant relatives filed petitions with the High Court regarding the will of her property. The will stated that 70% of her property was to be put in a trust in her name to help poor members of the Babi family. 20% was pledged to Murad Khan Babi for being a guiding force, and 10% was to given to Christian missionary funds. Before she died, she used to say all of her wealth she wanted to give to charities. She wanted to give to the poor. She didn't want to keep nothing or give her family anything. So it's interesting how, I don't know, the Babi family, I don't know. Comment below your thoughts. I'm gonna leave it at that. But all I know is I don't think she was crazy, because a lot of the stuff she said checked out. Like, these people were all connected somehow. I don't know, guys. Just comment below your thoughts. I'm not going to say more, but comment below who else would you guys like me to do a video for. I love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in. If you like the music you're listening to, the link is in the description. I'll see you in the next one.